Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Roger Sherman, pitmaster and owner of District Pit Barbecue Catering Company in Washington, D.C. Coming to you from the billiards room of the O Street Mansion. Not a room we typically film in, not a lot of food associated with billiards unless you're talking bar food, but I like the room and we're gonna give it a shot. I got a great guest for you today, Mr. Giani Clarkson. Giani is a nationally recognized historian focusing on African American history, and he's also a fellow at the Ford's Theater where Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in 1865. Giani, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm glad that you didn't try to hustle me that we're in the billiards room.
It wouldn't have been any hustle. You would have just laughed that off. My billiard skills are not what they were when I was a younger man.
Nice, man. I love this room. This is really nice.
It's a terrific room.
Absolutely.
We'll give it a shot in here today. So, Giani and I, this is nominally a food show. Everybody knows that. We talk a little bit of food and then we get into some other things. So, Giani, what's the specialty that you want to talk about today?
So today, my specialty that I love talking about is crab macaroni and cheese. It's a twist on the traditional flavor, favorite with
Hold on for 1 second. What are we doing again?
Sure, it's crab macaroni and cheese.
All right, so the crab threw me off a little bit, but we're going to talk about mac and cheese before you get going. So it's going to be obvious to all of our viewers, you and I are both black.
Sure, absolutely.
We grew up in black households and black neighborhoods.
Correct.
And you know that the easiest way to never get invited back to the family barbecue is to show up with bad mac and cheese.
Oh no, we just coming off of Thanksgiving holiday, which of course I would argue that the macaroni and cheese may be more important than the turkey.
I would agree with that.
And people who make bad food get asked to leave.
That's the point that I'm trying to make. So
right.
in black households, especially during the holidays, you got to have some pedigree to show up with anything. So
correct.
If you're showing up with the mac and cheese and you don't do it right, you're in a lot of trouble. So tell me about it.
Oh no, you're definitely back on paper plates.
Yes.
So we're talking about 4 cheeses. Of course, I love to lean towards shells instead of elbow macaroni.
Okay.
And then heavy whipping cream and eggs. A little bit of minced garlic, which I think is very, very important. Topped off with some Parmesan cheese with the finish. Bacon at 350, let it sit at 15-20 minutes, and hey, it's ready to roll.
So what makes it special? Tell me about the crab portion.
So the portion of it is that you're using jumping up crab, which of course, finest crab you get. And then I like to use kind of non-traditional cookware, because everything you're making, you're filling in a wok.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't really love woks, but I love woks, right? So we're talking about 1 whole stick of butter, a whole cup of heavy whipping cream, half a cup of milk, about 2 to 3 teaspoons of minced garlic, taking 2 cups of shredded cheese, and then taking just your traditional large can of jumbled up crab meat, and you're making your filling. So a lot of times when we think about macaroni and cheese in general, we're thinking noodles, cheese, and butter, and you roll like that. It's really boring. Okay. Where I feel like the whole thing is to have the filling, and the filling is what kind of ties everything together. So when you're building it up, it's noodles, it's the filling, it's more shredded cheese, noodles, filling, more shredded cheese, all the way till you get to the top. And then of course, when you're right there at that last little bit of where you're going to take it out, last 2 or 3 minutes, take it out real quick, throw some Parmesan cheese on it, a little basil, put it back in, and then when it's ready to pull out, it's good to go.
So you're building it kind of like a lasagna almost.
Right. So this leans a lot towards my Italian heritage too. So being a black kid named Giani, you live and die for a lot of Italian dishes. So that's where it kind of layers it in, instead of it's just kind of, and there's noodles and cheese. You take that spoon, the grandmama spoon, as I love to say, and then of course you turn it in, throw it in that way. But building it that way, you get layer after layer of something tasty, and I love it.
So let me ask you this: you mentioned that you use a wok when you do this.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
I'm a barbecue guy. This is not a secret to you.
Right.
Nominally a food show. Everybody knows I'm a barbecue chef.
Right.
So we roll cast iron.
Right.
So what do you think you're getting something better out of the wok?
Oh yeah.
Is it just like because that's what you like to use?
No, I love the wok for the bowl feature of it, where I feel like you're able to get more ingredients into it, and then you're able to see how everything is kind of like gelling together, melting down everything. So I feel like in a pan, things are flat. Things can get stuck in your corners and your edges. Where you have a wok, everything goes. It's like a out of business sale. Everything goes, and you know that you're pouring and everything because you're labeling everything in. So even the little edge, hey, it's in a wok. There's no corners. You can't cut any corners there. It's a great dish.
I love that. I'm gonna have to give that a shot. Like I said, I cook almost everything for all my catering gigs, it's almost always aluminum pans. But when I'm cooking at home for my family, it's always cast iron. I don't even own a wok.
Yeah.
So this is something I'm going to have to look into. Like, as a chef, these are things I need to experience.
Yeah.
And talking to people like you, giving me new ideas.
You know, it's funny because I got introduced to cooking with a wok probably at 13, 14 years old. My father owned a restaurant in the Detroit City Airport. It was called Flight Time Cafe, and it was in honor of the Tuskegee Airmen. And one day, he just, was like, what are you doing with this wok? He was like, man, it holds sauce. It's way better than it being in a pan. He said, see, now you got these burnt edges here. If it's a wok, we're pouring everything in. That's the end of the story. And I saw it once, and that's all I need to see it for.
Wow.
And I was like, so of course, you're in college, growing up, what do you want? Okay, I got my own pan set. No, I need a wok. And everyone's like, what are you going to do, just make Chinese food all the time? I'm like, no. Just watch how it works. And now it's funny because I have more of my friends that are using woks in the kitchen.
I'm buying one today.
See, there it is.
I'm buying one today. So, you're from Detroit.
From Detroit, yes.
Your father owned a restaurant in Detroit inside of the airport.
Correct.
I'm assuming that that's where your passion of cooking comes from, or is there something else, or is there some other place where you like to focus on as far as your culinary experience?
See, growing up, everything happened in the kitchen. My mom was my favorite dance partner because when I was going to go to a dance, she's like, you know how to dance? I'm sure I know how to dance. She's like, no. Like, mom, that's where the two-step lessons happen. Some of my favorite conversations in the world happen in the kitchen with my father. Even to this day, whenever my father and I have to talk, we go directly to the kitchen. And I've seen him make so many meals, and we've talked over so many meals. There's a book by E.L. Holloway, which is called Brain Science. And it talks about the heart of getting to people and getting to building relationships. And it's funny because he has 2 to 3 chapters based off of something that the African American community has known forever, which is you sit down and you have meals. Right. You break bread over things. You're able to leave. Even if you don't have the best conversation or you don't come to the best agreement, at the end of the day, what winds up happening? Well, I had a great meal.
Right.
And that's really what it is.
Right.
So that's how I think the importance of the kitchen has been in my life. So even now with my own son, who went about 2 summers ago and took cooking classes over the summer. And now when we talk, that's exactly where we go. We go right to the kitchen. So it's just part of our popular culture.
That is what we do. Like I said, similar situation to you. Spent all my time in the parish with my parents in the kitchen, watching them cook stuff. My mom is from Kentucky. That's kind of where I
what part?
My mother's from Ashland.
Okay, I know exactly where Ashland is. Yep.
So that's where I got my barbecue roots from. Mom used to like to cook on the grill a little bit. Dad is from the Bahamas. He liked to grill, but he didn't like to barbecue. He's not a smoker guy because they don't have that type of smoke wood down in the Bahamas. Sure. But that's having those conversations in the kitchen. And another place my father and I used to have conversations. This is kind of weird. My father used to cook in the fireplace. So
really?
So we would have conversations in the living room surrounding food.
Nice.
Which is really cool.
It's funny that you said Ashland because my father's from Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
And my mom is from Orangeville, Kentucky. So driving down from Detroit, I saw the Ashland exit to go to Orangeville and go, of course, to Louisville and everything else. So I spent a lot of time in Kentucky.
You realize that this means we're going to have to get our parents together.
Oh, no, this will be hilarious.
We're all going to have to eat.
Yeah, that'll be absolutely hilarious, yeah.
So before we got on camera, you and I started having a quick conversation around some restaurants that you had some familiarity with. Right. As far as their influence on the civil rights movement.
Right.
You are a nationally recognized historian.
Sure.
You focus on African American history. Mm-hmm. Break that down for me. Tell me a little bit about what we were talking about earlier.
So it's funny that we talked about how brain science, about how you're able to gather around a plate and learn so much or make these really great plans. When we talk about the civil rights movement, we're talking about a marketing plan to change the mindset of America at this time. And when we're talking about this, it means that we're having a completely mind shift of how do we treat people who have been disenfranchised by the American dream. Now the problem is that, well, where do these people meet? And of course, the church is the obvious spot, but there have been many occasions inside the civil rights movement where the police would come to these churches, break them up, people be arrested, and worse. They would go to people's homes. Well, the police would show up yet again, break that up, and worse, arrested or worse. So then became the safe haven of the African American restaurant. So we're talking about, a restaurant that's near and dear to my heart, which of course would be Dooky Chase, which is in New Orleans. my chapter brothers, Ed Dillard, Beta Phi, Robert Hydell, Edgar Chase.
So hold on that real quick. Gianni is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I happen to be a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. So I just want to throw that out there because that's very important since he mentioned his chapter brothers. We actually happen to be in the same grad chapter, and we ourselves are chapter brothers. Right. I didn't mean to cut you off. No. I just want to give a shout out to the friend.
No, absolutely, because it's actually going to tie in. Is that so? Here's Dookie Chase, which is a restaurant that sits in New Orleans. Dr. Martin Luther King, who of course is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. When he's there trying to find ways to galvanize African American culture, or this movement, they go to Dookie Chase. They meet the second floor of this restaurant, knowing that no one was going to bother them there. In addition to the conversations that I had with Bayard Rustin, John Lewis, Fannie Lou Hamer, and so many other pinnacle people who are inside of this movement, which of course is huge. So that's one major restaurant that, of course, when I would go there in college, you would always want to sneak up and go to that second floor because you want to see where history was made.
Yes.
And that's the importance of food, of this soul food that helped to just build this movement. You know, Leah Chase died at 96 years old, and before she was, transitioned to a different side of heaven, she said that she helped to feed the civil rights movement, and she did.
Wow.
She absolutely did. So that's one major restaurant. Think about the Four Way, which is of course in Memphis, Tennessee, which is another restaurant that provided a safe haven for African American meeting places to plan. We all know about the sanitation strike and how during this sanitation strike, Dr. Martin Luther King and Bayard Rustin and many others who were involved in this strike. Where could they meet at? Well, the Four Way was a major location inside of that because we knew that the police was walking through. Mayor Loeb at that time was very much so trying to find any way to get Dr. King out of Memphis. But the great thing about it was that this restaurant was a steadfast. And I think that's what food does. Food brings a safe haven.
Yes.
Any disagreement, any tension that happens, that's where food is so great. So those are just two major key restaurants. There's tons of others, but those are two major key restaurants.
That's great, man. So it's interesting, the way you phrase that. We couldn't meet in the churches anymore.
Correct.
We were getting arrested at the churches. We immediately transitioned into restaurants where we could try to have the same experience, the same planning experience, the same camaraderie that we would have had in our churches.
Correct.
Translates to the restaurants. Mm-hmm. So we can take that back a couple hundred years. Before African Americans or before Africans who had been brought over here against their will could congregate in churches, before they had churches, when they were on plantations, everybody congregated at the kitchen. And that is just kind of where it came from. And I can kind of tie this into what I do with barbecue. A lot of the barbecue cuts that you'll see out there, it's meat, it's throwaway meat. That other people didn't want because it was so tough. So you've got, your pork shoulder, which is a piece of meat that takes hours and hours and hours to cook. And where the people in the big house might have got those pork chops, or they might have got that pork loin, we were going to get the pork shoulder, and we were going to have to find a way to cook that down and make it good. Same thing with briskets. We were going to have to take that and cook it for 12 hours to get it down, as opposed to the ribeye steak, which somebody else might have gotten in the big house. So it is those experiences in kitchens, making the crab mac and cheese. Making the pork shoulder. And those type of things. African Americans, and not just African Americans, anybody, any type of group that is just oriented that way. You spoke about the Italians.
Sure.
If you watch any of the mafia movies, a lot of the time those guys are around tables. Mm-hmm. They're eating spaghetti and drinking wine. You see it all. You see it half the movie. The Godfathers. What that's happening. So, it just folds in. And as a historian, it's interesting that as much history is out there, that's where it's kind of grounded at.
Absolutely, it's where you learn your skin in the game. I want to say, of your cultural investment. Like, you get to learn who are you as a people and how did you get here. What is your founding story, right? I tell my students all the time that everybody is a history question, but you dictate what the answer is going to be. And I think that that's where you learn what is your answer going to be to humanity. Like what type of person you're going to be. What is this major thing that you're going to solve? And that is the benefit of that round table. You know, that's the benefit of that dining room table. And even there's a hierarchy of understanding who is who in the family. You know, this is dad's chair. This is dad's chair for a reason. Dad is the leader. This is mom's chair. This is mom's chair for the reason. And no matter how your family dynamic is shaped, there are people who sit in certain seats due to the hierarchy of who they are in the family. Hey, man, that's Big Mama chair. Sure. We know that she sits there. She's been sitting there forever. That wasn't always her chair. She was one time on the left. But when the original Big Mama, she went on and moved on. So that's who we are as a culture. But it's all sitting around in this wonderful world of food. But I'll say this too. Like another great restaurant is the Big Apple Inn in Jackson, Mississippi, which of course fed tons of people inside the civil rights movement. And the major thing they said is that if you're going to be on your feet fighting for a movement, the least that we could do is provide food and strength for you to stand on. And that's what was huge, and that's what was so important inside of a restaurant like that. We're talking about, once again, meeting spaces, safe haven, one of the first restaurants to ignore segregation laws, where both black and white diners could eat together, which was completely unheard of, especially during the time of, we're talking about 1950, 60, Jim Crow South. If you walked into this place as a white diner, you were basically saying to the wind and to society, you did not agree with the rules of Jim Crow and everything else. So It was where black folks built, allies could come, everyone had basically, I want to say skin in the game, but also understood where their seat was at this table. We always talk about the great seat at the table. There's no greater seat than in the seat of progression and movement. And I think that's one of the things I love about the civil rights movement. And of course, talks about restaurants as well too.
Couldn't have said it better. There's nothing else to be said about that. So I got one question for you.
Sure.
You're from Detroit.
Yes.
This is what I like to know because, you know, I don't travel as much as I'd like to, obviously, anymore, but I've gotten around the country a lot. If you had to tell me one signature Detroit dish.
Oh, boy.
What is that?
So this is going to be difficult because Detroit, to me, is nothing more than Mississippi North.
Okay.
So due to the Great Migration, there's, of course, all these black folks that go south, from south to the north, but though they're northern, they don't lose any of their culture, once again, because of that table, right? So for me, there are, I'm gonna cheat. Well, my favorite number is 3, so I'm gonna go here. 1, Fish Bones in Detroit, which is a Southern cuisine restaurant, which was absolutely great. 2, Greektown. And yes, I'm choosing all of Greektown.
Okay.
Mainly because I love Greek food, right? So we're talking about 2 city blocks of some of the best Greek food that you can find.
Wow.
And I mean, it is great. And 3rd, and this is where I'm going to cheat a little bit, is the Great American Dirty Spoon in Detroit. Simmons, Chef Henry, the Palace, the Bread Basket, Beyondi's. These are places that, of course, are not luxurious, but the people are really friendly, the food is amazing, and they have no interest on being anyone's Yelp or Michelin stars. They're like, this is who we are. You're going to get this steak sandwich. It's going to be wrapped in this paper. You're going to love it. It's drenched in Italian dressing. Would you like fries or onion rings? The soda machine's right there. All right, we'll see you in a minute. We're taking your pizza out this brick oven.
Okay.
Yeah, love it.
So I'm gonna force your hand here. I'm gonna force you to answer one for me.
Sure.
So I'm gonna throw out some things right now that the way I see it, and maybe it's not necessarily the case.
Right.
Chicago's deep dish pizza. Okay. Philadelphia is cheesesteaks. People would argue that DC is chicken wings and mumbo sauce.
Correct.
What is Detroit? Give me one dish.
It's the coney.
The coney. Okay.
It's the Great American Coney. Like, I mean, you would get into huge debates with people from Detroit about who has the best conies. For me, it's L. George's. It's off of 6 Mile in Warwick. It was in my neighborhood. After any type of major game, basketball, football, we would go over there and we would get it. You would get the 2 conies.
So what is a coney?
So a coney dog. And
It's a hot dog. Go ahead. Let me back up off it.
No, it's the Coney dog. Like, you know how they have a Chicago dog, where, you know, there's certain things you don't put ketchup on a Chicago dog, right? A Coney is chili, diced onions, mustard. You can go cheese, but it's just a real good solid beef hot dog, and you let it roll where it is, right? You always want to go with some fries. You gotta go with a flavored soda, orange or red, or of course, if you're in Detroit, you gotta go with some Vernors. Vernors is like the greatest ginger ale in all the world, right? And then, you know, you might go onion rings, and that's it. Like, and once again, these are places we're not looking for any Michelin stars here. You know, we're here to feed you, get out, you know, going on about your business. Even down when I was in high school, there's America's Coney Island, which was this huge building, and they would have some of the best food that was there. Like, it was just so good. Like, and I love that. So for me, give me Detroit and a good solid Coney dog.
So Detroit and its Coney dogs.
Absolutely.
That's the word from Mr. Giani Clarkson, nationally recognized historian and fellow at the Ford's Theater. Gianni, I want to thank you for coming out today.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you being on the show.
Humble.
Got a couple of restaurants that I got to track down now once the pandemic is over.
Oh, absolutely. Go after it.
And we'll get our parents together and talk Kentucky barbecue.
Oh no, they're going to try to talk forever, especially if you get my dad talking about steak and shake.
And we'll get it done in a kitchen. We'll have it in somebody's kitchen. We'll have it in somebody's kitchen. I want to thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it. And one more time, thank you to the O Street Mansion for hosting us and letting us film in their billiards room today. Everybody have a good day. Once again, thank you to Giani Clarkson. And if you're in Detroit, make sure you check out the Coney dogs. I'm sorry, it's not a hot dog.
It's not a hot dog.
Check out the Coney
in
Detroit.
There it is.
And wear your gator shoes.